Hi, my name is Steven Sitas and I head the development team at alpha360.biz. You can find more information about the Alpha360 ERPs and the various editions at our website. Today I am going to introduce version 0.5 of the WinDev implementation of the Alpha360 ERP. This, up to now, includes parties, products and services, expenses, accounting, and purchases with the full workflow. As you may already know, the Alpha360 ERPs are not applications for end users, like companies. They are projects with full source code that can be used by developers to develop their own ERPs and sell them to their own customers. Now, let's take a quick look at the user interface and the functionality of the version 0.5. If you have seen previous designs of the Alpha360 ERP, you may notice that the main screen has changed a little. This is because we tried to give it a more minimalistic design so it can fit at smaller displays. As always, we have here the main sidebar where users choose their actions. Let's take a look at some of the options on the side menu. The first area that is very important is the administration area. This is where we have the dimension tables used in all the Alpha360 ERP implementations. Here are the system setup dimensions, the company setup dimensions. Important here is the configuration. This gives default values to various areas in our ERP, like our default currency, default industry, default country, the inventory defaults, our default UOM, our accounting structure if you have one, our journal formatting, our documents. This is where international users can change the format for the local currency, the dates, the numbers, the quantities, the prices, etc. And we have introduced in 0.5 the notion of the installation ID. But more about this later when we talk about the analysis model. We can save everything from here. Here are the departments, the business units, the numbering series. The numbering series are very important because they auto-number our documents. The business objects, they are the brain of the systems. We will be saying more about the business objects, the ones that are already included in the ERP and the ones that you, the developer, can implement by yourself, and the sales terms. This is the user setup where the model is around user roles and users. This is going to be implemented, fully implemented in version 1.0 and will be included only in the commercial versions. The same for translations and help system. This is the area for the global dimensions. We have the currencies, the countries, the industries, and the manufacturers. Generally, every primary key for every table in the ERP is a GUI ID. Only the currencies have a primary key that is actually their ISO code, the same for the countries and the same for the industries. This is something very important for developers who want to change things in the ERP. Under the inventory dimensions node, we have added colors, sizes, product classes, product group, and product price lists. Please note that in version 0.5 data models and not the user interface, we have already included support for product families. This means that we can group products that are something like the same, but just change colors and sizes. In the accounting dimensions, this is where we set up our general ledger accounts, our journals, and our account groups if we have any account groups. So after that, there is the sales dimensions, where we have customer areas, customer groups, and customer price lists. We will see more about these dimensions when we go to version 0.6 and introduce the sales model. And the purchase dimensions, that includes the supplier groups. Under the node's tax posting dimensions, we have included everything about our sales taxes, or the other way around, our purchase taxes. Sales taxes is where we list our sales taxes. Please note that this is not a list of every VAT, like VAT 23% or VAT 13%. This is just the general category. If you are in the United States, you could add here a state tax or a city tax, etc. Just a general group. After that, we see the party posting groups. If a customer is a local customer, we have a local customer entry. We can add more entries for European customers, for third world party customers, etc. Product posting groups. This is where we add product posting categories. This means that we have products that say they are in the European Union high VAT. That means that they have a VAT of 20, 19, 23% or something like this. And products like food that have a tax like low VAT, that is something like 13% or 9%. It depends on your local country. It does not say anything about the actual VAT percent. And this product and party taxes, this is where we actually combine parties and products and give the actual tax percent. Let's take a closer look at this table. We are working on VAT, so we have two combinations. Let's see the first combination. This is the edit button. We see that for sales tax VAT, for parties that are local, and for products that are high VAT, we give it an ID here. It's not important. From this date to this date, the tax percent is 24%. And of course, we have account postings and calculation code for extreme tax calculation that we will see in another version. If we take a look at this combination, we will see that it is for products of local parties, for products with low VAT, then from this date to this date, the tax is 13%. Now, before going on and seeing purchases and accounting, let's take a closer look at parties, products, and expenses. Let's close some of the windows here, some of the tabs. And go to the CRM area. Let's go to lists, and here are parties. Here we can see a list of all our parties. Our search and how we do it is done with the search tab here and with this refresh button. So in this table we see all our parties. They can be customers, they can be employees, or they can be suppliers. Let's add a new supplier. I'll give it a name. Since I am in the European Union and I know this customer is in EU, I can use its VAT number and I can use a special web service that is available in EU, the VIS web service, and get all information about this company. Oh, sorry, that's wrong. Let's try again. So this is our country, this is, sorry, our company, and it came directly from a VIS database. Now, we want this to be a supplier. So you see that as soon as I hit a supplier, a new tab opens on the right. I add supplier group, supplier posting, that is very important, and the default purchase terms. I can use a maximum open balance and I can use a special GL purchase account, or I can leave it as is and the system will use the default GL purchase account. This one now is a supplier. It can also be a customer. So we have a new tab here and we have to give information about the customer. So we unclick this one. It can also be a legal organization or a person. If it is a person, a new tab opens and we can give more information about last name, first name, middle name, etc. for CRM, things like that. Let's give it a legal organization and save it. Since we are here at the user interface, let's take a few minutes and talk about the user interface. First, if we hit the little man over here, here are the preferences for the user, and we can change the user interface. We can go for a simple user interface. What does that mean? That means that if I do an edit or an insert like this, then I will have floating windows outside our embedded tabs. I can have multiple windows floating around my desktop, just changing the user interface to multi-windows. Let's get back to the flat. So this is for every user. He can choose his own user interface. Now, there is a small button over here at the left. It hides or unhides the side menu so we can get a little extra area to work if we are working on small displays. Although the real problem with today's displays isn't how big the width is, but as you may already know, how big, the length is, but the width, but the height. Okay, let's go on and leave the CRR area and go to the purchases area. You will see that there is a list node also. Let's hit the suppliers. Every party that is a supplier is also in the list of the suppliers. Let's go to the sales, to the list, and to the customers. We will see that the table or the screen for the customers is empty because none of our parties have a role of a customer. They have been given a role of supplier. Now let's go to our inventory area. We go to the node lists, and here we have products and services. Here is a list of all our products and services. Please note that we don't use services for reasons of expenses. We have another dimension table for this kind of things, and we will see it in a moment. Let's go and see what our products are. This is the 1, 2, 3 chocolate A. It's in a class food. Remember, we have seen classes, product classes, in the administration area. Let's take a closer look to one of these records. Let's go and do an edit. It has a product ID, a description. It has a barcode. The alpha360 ERPs support many barcodes per products and packages. They will be available in version 1.0 for the user interface, although they are already available in the data models. So, this is the product class. This is a food product class. The product class dimension is very important because it gives functionality to the product. Let's see the functionality tab. It means that this is a product, it's a new product, and when we do sales, we usually order it. How to track it? Is it an inventory item? Is it used in sales, in purchases, the quantity for decimals, and the decimals for the prices? Let's take a look once again at the functionality of the product classes. Remember, this is in the administration area. Let's go to inventory dimensions and go to product classes. It is over here. This is probably wrong, the food one. This is a product. It could be a product, an immaterial, or a service item. The decimals we are going to use. The way we are going to use it in sales orders, if we go to purchase order, if we're going to build to order, or we're going to use work to order. This is the way we track these product class records. We can leave it as untrackable, or use lot numbers, or use serial numbers. They can also be inventory items, they can be used in sales, or they can be used in purchases. The most important thing here is the type of the cost evaluations. Sorry. Internally, every time you do a sales, the ERP calculates its cost. To do things quicker, it always uses the average method. But at the end of your periods, your inventory periods, and we'll talk about them in a little while, you can do adjustments, or you can let the system do automatic adjustments depending on your real cost evaluations. So, although at real time everything is done by the mean average, you may want a specific product class to be left alone and use the average, the mean, the default. You can let it use the FIFO. You can let it use a unique one, a unique price, that is for things like cars, etc. Generally things that have a lot number. You can also use a standard cost. You can use the last purchased price, or you can use a FIFO price. What is missing here? What is missing in this specific options, choose options? The LIFO method. In most places around the world, the LIFO, you cannot use LIFO So to sum things up, even if in the cost evaluation there is no LIFO option, a developer can add it because deeply in the data models and the included business processions, LIFO is supported. And something else that I may have said wrong the other time before is that the unique goes for the serial numbers and not the lot numbers. Now let's get back to our product. So this is the product class we have seen just now. This is the product posting that gives the product the kind of VAT. Always it depends on the supplier, the customer, etc. This is just a group dimension. This is the foreign description. This is the price lists, and we will talk about price lists in sales. This is a tab for manufacturer information. This is the way we distribute things. This is the UOM. They directly come from the UOM dimension table. This is the unit cost, the standard. These are sales prices. This is the last purchase date and the last price. They are calculated automatically by the system. This is the category for the ABC analysis, the maximum discount we can give to a product, the gross profit we want, and if we want it to be available in our eShop. This is the availability tab. We can do sales from up to, purchases from up to, and this item is serviceable, not a chocolate, from up to. This is a memo note, a general, we can write whatever we want. We have seen the functionality. This is the logs. This is the measurement system. We can choose a metric system, the imperial system, or the US customary system. Developer can easily add his own measurement systems, and changing between kilograms to grams and etc. is done with a UOM table that is already in the data analysis. And this is the information for everybody who would like to implement on top of the ERP and eShop. One last thing to note here is that if we go and add or change or delete in the dimension, in the administration area, any product group, price list, etc., then we can hit this refresh button, and then all our combos in this product record will be automatically refreshed. So we can go and start editing a product, and at the same time go and edit dimension tables as needed. This is something that works in all the ERP. Now, before going and seeing the purchase workflow, let's talk a little bit about expenses. Here, under the purchases in the list, there is the expansion table. Let's see what it is. Let's do an insert. Let's give it an ID 01 expense 1. And the type of VAT if it has one. We can add as many expenses as we want. Usually in ERP systems, the expenses records come from the accounting structure. The reason we have chosen to use a special expenses dimensional table is to keep the account tables as small as possible. If we are a company that is audited externally, or we need to know where expenses come, or even worse, if we have a budget on expenses, the usual way to do things is populate the expenses in the account structure. But we think that this is overkill. We have heard stories about companies that have in the account tables, in the account structure, thousands, 50,000, 80,000, 100,000 accounts just so they can use a combination of expenses, departments, etc. We think that this is very wrong. So we have an expense dimensional table that can be used anywhere where we do purchases, so accounts can do what they have to do. They just have to sum things and give a quick picture for our company. For auditing, we have the expenses tables. Let's go on now and see the actual purchase workflow. Let's go to purchases. This is a list for suppliers, we have seen it. For expenses, we have seen it. And let's see the transactions that can be done in purchases. The first thing is a purchase quote. We can have many purchase quotes to many different suppliers and choose which is the best. We are not going to talk specially anything about purchase quotes. Let's go and see purchase orders. Let's close some of these tabs. So I have no purchase order right now, and let's add a purchase order. We use the insert record over here, the date. This is the document date. This is the transaction date. Sometimes the document date, especially when we are receiving things that take a long time to get to us, they may be different. The system defaults to the same date, but you can change it. Here is the business object. Since we are in a purchase order, the only business objects that are available are the purchase order. Why do we have many business objects of type purchase orders? This actually comes very deeply from the data models. Just take a look at a sales. We may have different sales numbering, so we have different business objects from where we get our numbering. So the same thing, we could have different purchase order numbers for different department, different locations, etc. So for now, this will do. We choose a business object purchase order. Now, who is the supplier? We can choose the supplier from the combo box, or we can choose with an F2 and use a pop-up to select our suppliers. Please note that only suppliers will be shown here. This is a very minimalistic lookup. You can do more things here. You can do the searches under here, and with VAT numbers you can add more things like columns here, etc. Let's select this company. Does this supplier have a branch? No, it does not have a branch. We have not seen this in this video, but we have seen it in previous videos. We can give every party more than one branches. Let's see it again. This is the list. This is the parties. Sorry. Okay, sorry. This is the parties. And under here are the branches. How do we add branches to this company? We select the company. This is the main option button for all windows in the alpha360 ERP, and we can add a new branch. So let's get back to the purchase order. If we had added branches to this supplier, we could have selected a specific supplier branch, but it's not needed. You see that when I have chosen Computer Plus, the supplier posting has been automatically filled in. So have been the purchase terms. Of course I can change them. This is the original ID. I can give it a number. We will talk about journal numbering and approval and the journal ID in a little, mostly in accounting, but it is the same. So, we have chosen the supplier, everything has been filled automatically. Let's go to the document area. We must give it some type of short description. This could be the original ID. This is the company branch, our company branch. We can choose which one. It has been automatically filled from the from the business object. The business object has information about default company branches and default company department. This is the currency used for this purchase order. I can use whatever I want, but remember the only thing that is static here for each year, for each fiscal year for our implementation is our local currency. This information for the address, if we hadn't added it, the shipment, we will see this later. Now, here is the area of the products and services. Let's see how this works. First of all, please note that we want everything distributed to a default warehouse. This is the main default warehouse. Let's select a product. This quantity of packages, we'll talk about it in a moment. Let's say 10. And nothing else. I can have, if I want, a unit price. Let's take a closer look to this. This is the product ID. This is the product name. This means that, remember, we can have for each product many packages. This is a package of 1, and there are 10 packages. So the total quantities is 1 multiplied by 10. That's the quantity in the UOM. This is the unit-based price, and this is always not for the package, but for the quantity you own. This is the unit price. This is the amount in the currency. What is the currency? The currency is this one here. We can choose it to something else, add it the exchange currency, and it will always show what we have added here, but when it's going to post it, it is going to post it also in our local currency. So let's take a look how the taxes are done. We see that the system has automatically added taxes of 13%. Let's go and add another product here. Let's go and add this one that has, we know, a VAT of 24%. Let's give it 1 and give it a price of a unit of 1,000. Now let's see the tax tab. Now a new entry for VAT 24% has been added. Since this is a purchase order, we don't know anything about expenses, so we are not going to add anything. And in the workflow, this is the first step, so we are not going to talk about the workflow right now. We will do it in another step. Okay? So, let's go and add it. This has been added to our purchase orders, but it has not been posted. We can go and change it. We can do changes, deletes, etc., or things like that, or things like moving this over here, up or down. But we can do this only as long as this is not posted. How do we post it? We are on this tab. We can select as many purchase orders as we want. I have only selected one since I have only one. We go to the options button here and select the posted orders. And they all have been posted. If something, let's take a look at it. I've been given a journal ID, and it is being given automatically by the business object. Something very important here is that if I can tell the business object every time I do a save to do an automatical post, so I don't need to do this manually. It depends on the way I parameterize my business object. Now, let's see what happened to this purchase order. Of course, if something went wrong, I can go on and unpost the selected order. Let's see the tabs under here. So, these are the things that I actually added, the products and services. You may see I have not added any expenses. These are the tax lines that were automatically calculated. And since it's a purchase order, it may have done an inventory ledger, yes. See this column here? It has, these are purchase orders, the unit prices, but this product has a quantity due of 10. That means that these have not gone to the next step. And what is the next step? The next step is to transform the purchase order to a shipment. Let's go again to purchases, to shipments. We are here. Let's go and add a purchase shipment. Now, the same thing here. The business objects I can choose of type purchase shipment. I can select the company. I think it was this one. Yes. Why it is important here? Because now I'm going to use the workflow. I'm not going to manually add products and services. I'm going to use the workflow here. I can hit this button or this button, it is the same, and it will show me the previous steps that are quantity due, and that means that for this customer we have open purchase orders. So I can select it, and everything automatically comes here. Please note that a shipment does not do any economic posting, things like taxes, etc. But it is always a good idea to know how much it could cost. But it has no prices here. Let's say that we know some type of prices. It's here, the unit base. Let's give it a 10 and a 1000. Okay. We don't have anything. The taxes are automatically calculated, but that doesn't really mean anything for our accounting. It's just a note how much it could actually cost. Let's go and add it. We need a short description. Of course, we need an original ID, and this would be purchase shipment document of our supplier. Let's give it a 4, 5, 6, 7. Let's give it a short description. We don't really need anything else, and let's add it. Now, let's go back to the purchase orders. You will see that the status for this purchase order is ship status not shipped. Let's go to the purchase shipments. This is not invoiced, but this is really not important right now because we know it's not invoiced yet, but because it's not posted. Let's post it. Now, let's go and take a look to our purchase order. Let's refresh it. And what does it say? It says that this purchase order has been shipped. Why? Because this one has been posted. Now let's go on and go to the next step. The next step is the invoice. No, so let's go and see. We try to do another purchase shipment, an automatically purchase shipment for the same supplier. And let's go to the workflow. You will see we cannot select anything because we don't have any open purchase order. Let's go on with the purchase invoices. Let's go and add a new purchase invoice. Please note here that we have two business objects that we can use. We can use a purchase invoice and one that is flagged online posting. We have flagged this one to post online as soon as we do an ad. Let's use this one. We are going to use the same supplier. Let's go and use and refresh we can use this one. Copy this one. This is the products and services. Let's go and add the actual price we had, because it can be different from anything else. We have gone through the workflow. And something we haven't seen before, this over here has a small dot. This means that this one came from a workflow, from a transformation. Now, let's say that we would like to change prices on this thing. To make things more simple and more minimalistic, the only thing we can change here on our screen is the quantity of packages and the unit price. But we can select a product or a service here. We can go to the edit button, and here we can change everything from the quantities in the packages to the warehouse where we want it to be delivered, to the expected date, to discounts, to the unit price. It has 3% discounts and a discount unit. Let's give it a 10% here and a 10% here. This doesn't mean that our end discount percent will be 20%. This means that it would be something like 19%, because they are not added, they are recalculated. This is the serial numbers tab. We will talk more about these in the data models and the lot numbers. Just note that if for one product we have many serial numbers, like 1, 3, 4, this one, this means that the system expects exactly 3 quantities over here. Okay? Now, let's go. Now, let's say we had some time of expenses for this invoice. We go to the expenses, we do an insert, we select an expense. The only thing we select is the amount. And let's see our taxes now. You see the taxes, because this is a 24% expense, have been added to our tax table. Now, let's see something else. Let's go, let me give a short description here. Let's go to the workflow. Let's do a refresh. Remember, we have already added these two products and services, and let's try to add it again. We try to do a copy, and let's see the product and services. Nothing has changed. The system knows that we have already used this workflow for this document, so it will not use it again. Something very important here is that say that we have a lot of users working at the same time on the ERP. Then the system does not know who has used which workflow at the same time, because everything has not been posted yet. So how do we deal with this kind of problem? The business processes, at the time that we are going to do a post, will catch the errors and will not let anything that will give this kind of errors to be posted. Now let's go on and add this invoice. We need an original ID. And as you see in this screen, everything has been posted automatically. There is no need to use the option post the selected purchases because we have parameterized the business object to automatically post our purchase invoices. Now let's take a look again at all the workflow. Purchase orders. They have a journal ID, the ship status is shipped, and one kind of transaction has been done by the purchase orders. Nothing economic, only an inventor ledger. And as we will see in the data models in a few minutes, it has not done anything important in the inventor ledger. It just notifies us about the quantities that we have ordered and we are expecting. Let's see the purchase shipments. You see the invoice status is that it has been invoiced. Why has it been invoiced? Because we have transformed it to a purchase invoice. And in the same way as the purchase orders, it has done what kind of things? It has done an inventory ledger. It has not done anything like an AP ledger, neither a general ledger. Let's take a look at the purchase invoices. What's its ship status? It has been shipped. We'll talk about this in a moment. And its payment status? It has not been paid. We will see payments for purchases and sales in version 0.6 coming in a few days. Let's take a look at the tabs underneath these purchase invoices. These are information that come from our documents, our products, the expenses we used, the tax lines, the inventory ledger. This is very important because it has purchase amounts and it has a unit price, and this is actually used for the cost of sales. Let's take a look at the AP ledger. Talking with accounting terms, it has credited our supplier with the amount in our local currency is here, and this is the document currency. Since they are the same, they are the same currencies, they are the same amounts here. What about the general ledger? Here you will see the posting that will be done to the general ledger. These postings will be available in version 1.0. This is where we do search on purchase invoices, etc. For every document, either it's a purchase order, a shipment, an invoice, or a quote, we can go to the document area and we can add a new document for this attached to this purchase invoice. We can add as many documents as we want, and all documents in the systems are always stored in one area in the document area here. Here we can search them with full text search, etc., or we can find them under the purchase invoices, shipments, etc. Now, let's take a look at the purchase invoice that we just added to the system. In a classic system where everything would be linear, like say a purchase quote goes to a purchase order, to a purchase shipment, to a purchase invoice, in only this way, this column here, the ship status, would not be needed. Why? Because if we are here, it would mean that we already have done a shipment. So there would be no need for this column, for this information. But there are times, rare times, or less rare or some industries, where we sometimes receive a purchase invoice before we receive the purchase shipment. So there must be a way around this. That means that we may first edit the purchase invoice, and after some days we get the shipment. So actually the system supports invoices to shipments and shipments to invoices. Another thing that is very important here is that we can do in every way we like complicate transforms, multiple transforms, or partly transforms. Let's take a closer look at this kind of combinations. Let's go to a purchase order. Let's go and quickly and add two purchase orders. This one will have a product, will have 100 quantity packages. Let's go and add it, and it's not posted. Let's go and add another one. This is another purchase order for the same company, an original ID, a short description, and let's add to the products and services this one and this one. Let's add it. These are not posted, so I select both of them, and I'm going to post the selected orders. They have been both posted. Let's see the ship status, not shipped, not shipped, and the quantity dues are under here. We go to the inventory ledger. This is where the information is. 100 quantity due of this product, and 100 of this, and 23 of this. Let's go and do a shipment now. I'm going to select to make a new shipment. I'm going to select the same supplier, an original ID, a document, something like this. Let's go to the workflow. Let's do a refresh. We have two open orders. This one has 100 of this one, and this one has 100 of this one, and 23 of this one. What am I going to do now? I'm going to copy this one, and I'm going to copy this one. Let's go and see how the products and services are. Please note that although they are the same product, they are not included in one line because we need a pointer to the original purchase orders. And what are we going to do? We are going to change the quantity of this to 50. And we are going to delete this line. We haven't received it. And we're going to add it. It's here. Now let's post it. Now, let's take a look at the purchase orders. Let's refresh it. What does it say? It says that this one is partly shipped. Also, this one is partly shipped. Let's take a closer look at the inventory ledger. This one had a quantity of 100, and we have received 50, so our quantity due is 50. This one had 100 ordered for chocolate A. We have no quantity due because they have been totally shipped. And this one has been, we haven't received anything from this, so we still have a quantity due. So we can do partly shipments, and we can combine multiple orders to one shipment or multiple shipment to invoices, and the system will also protect us of overdue quantities. What does overdue quantity mean? Let's go now and do another purchase shipment. For the same supplier, let's go quick to the workflow. Let's refresh. Sorry. This is a purchase order. I don't want a purchase order. I want a purchase shipment. Let's go again to a purchase shipment. Let's go to the workflow. Let's do a refresh. Now the system knows that for this one, if I select this one, the original quantity was 100. I have already received 50, so the quantity due is 50. So if I copied it, I will have only a quantity of of quantity 50. So another way is that, let's say that I add 150 over here. The system will not let me do this kind of over quantity. It will protect me both at this time or any other user at the time that he posts the system. Another important thing here is that in the next version, we already have it in our version, but in version 0.6, we will have a combined object. What is a combined object? Or combined object generally? Sometimes in some countries, we use an object that combined shipments and invoices. This is a combined shipment invoice. This will be in the next version, and what it will actually do is post a shipment and an invoice, and this at the same time connecting them and making things a lot quicker. But it depends on your country and if something like this is allowed. Now also in version 0.5 we have the complete accounting cycle. Let's take a quick look at the accounting functionality. The first thing we always do in accounts is to make our account structure. Let's see, accounts. This is a table, a list of our accounts. Depending on your local company and the way you do construct your account ID, there is a special functionality for supporting this kind of things in the configuration area. Let's just take a look at an account. It has an account ID, the name, a sales taxable, etc. It has a parent. It can have a level, It can have an account behavior. It can have an account type, and for countries that need it or legislation that need it, there is the account group. Please note that every country in the world has different type of legislation about the constructing of the accounting ID. So something like this is specific to your country. If you have some questions about how to construct specifically accounting IDEs, you can email us and we can give you more information about the way the system supports account structures, or you can, of course, study the code and see how things work. Generally, what we do, we don't try to add thousands of accounts in our list of accounts. That is because information for auditing, either internal or external, specifically for expenses, but also for other things, can be done with the other dimension tables in the system. Of course, it supports transactions, meaning batches. We can add batches. And just note here, of course, we have journals, transaction dates, etc., batch lines. We select an account and we do a debit and we do a credit, etc. The classic type of thing that you would expect from a GL account system. Now, what kind of reports are there? Please note that most of the reports in the system are available only in the commercial versions and not in the open source version. We have a trial balance, a general ledger, but we don't have the income statement or the owner equity or the balance sheet or the cash flows. Most of the transactions in the accounting system will be automatically posted by purchases and sales. So what a company will actually use accounting for is for posting and for adjusting at the end of the year. Now, let's see if we forgot something important here. I don't think so, but we will see some more interesting things in a couple of minutes as we go inside our data analysis. Now, we are in our data analysis. The main thing that you will see in the project code is that we have grouped things in the analysis in different folders to make things a little clearer, because it is actually a rather big data analysis with many tables, and easily somebody can get confused. What you are seeing here now is not actually in the version 0.5 analysis. It's just like a temporary analysis we have made. So we have grouped things in the purchase area to make it easier for us to show what is going in the data analysis models. Now, the main table for purchases and for sales and for every other transaction in the system except the accounting transaction is the business document model. This one has every sales, every purchase, every movement, every payment, everything generally that could be categorized as a business document starts from here. Here is the information about the type of the business object, the fiscal year, the company inventory, period, things like transaction date, who created it, if it is posted, and please note there are 3 Boolean post fields, one that says if it is posted in the ERP, the other if it is posted in the general ledger, and there is the third one for companies that are using budgets. And there is a Boolean field that actually says if this business document has been cancelled. Now, let's say that we create a purchase. Purchases, they can be quotes, orders, shipments, invoices, or combined invoices and shipments. This is the table that has all information about purchases. Please note there is a one-to-one connection between a business document and the purchase record. Why is it one-to-one? It is actually, if we see here the link, it is a 0n to 1-to-1. But how does it become to a 1-to-1? Because we have transferred over here our primary key and we have made it unique. So there is always, for each purchase, there is a business document. Now, let's say that for this purchase, we add in the user interface, before even posting anything, we add products. Where are these products located in the data analysis? They are located in the business document product line. In classical data analysis of an ERP, this could be, say, the sales header, and this would be the sales lines. But we don't do it in this way, and you will see in a moment why we do it with this central business document table. Now, all product lines are connected to the business document, so they are actually connected to the purchase table. This is the table for the expense lines. This is the table for the tax lines. Now, just let's go a little further with the payment. The payment and the purchase are in the same level. This means that when we are going to introduce payments in version 0.6, they will be connected to business documents the same way a purchase is connected. Now, 1, 2, 3 are the lines that we see for each purchase. Either it's a quote, an order, a shipment, etc. This is the main table that handles everything, transactions, etc. Just note that this doesn't have any information about a supplier or a customer, etc., because it's the same for sales. Who has it? The purchase table. Now, when we do a posting, every business product line goes into an inventory transaction file. There is a one-to-one correspondence, except in one important area. We'll talk about it in a moment. The same thing happens to expense lines. Now, A purchase can make a credit for a supplier, and when we get a payment, it can be made into a debit. So these ones, when they are posted, they post to the G-party transaction file. In classical terms of ERPs, the I-inventory transaction table is actually our inventory journal, and the G-party transaction is actually the AP journal and the AR journal, but we have combined them in one table. Why? Because we want to make distributions between AP and AR transactions. That means that maybe we owe some money to our customer, and he is a supplier also, and he owns us as a supplier, or maybe the other way around. We can close these distributions because they are in the same table. There really is no reason to have them in two different tables. The only reason could be because there are some legislations in some companies that do not allow distribution between AR and AP transactions. Then you will not have to allow this, and this can be done with a simple switch in the ERP configuration. Now, as we said, when we post a business product line, it actually makes an inventory transaction, one or more. Why can it make more? Let's take a look at the product line. The product line has information about the serial numbers. This is a note file. This is, a Unicode text memo. That means that we can have many serial numbers inside this text field. Why? Because it's a lot easier when a user is adding things, to have everything in one area. So when this product line with many serial numbers gets posted, it actually expands all the serial numbers to as many inventory transactions that it needs, because the inventory transactions have, let me find it, have pointers to serial numbers. They are not anymore text memos, they are strings pointing to a serial number, or the same thing for the lot number. Now, after that, what happens? We have seen the workflow, how we go from shipments to invoices, etc. Where are these things, these connections held? They are held in the G-cross inventory transaction. This has the information that is the base for our workflow. The same thing actually happens when we combine or distribute debits and credits in parties. Then we have the G-cross party transaction table. Now, when we are receiving things with an invoice or a combined invoice and shipment, we must have somewhere where we keep information about the cost. So we can use these costs for posting to the general ledger. Remember, the system supports average, FIFO, unique, and of course LIFO, although it's not an option as we have seen in the user interface. So there are actually two groups of tables that support the costing and the distribution of the costing to the sales. Every time we do an inventory transaction that must be used in our costs, then everything is added to the inventory FIFO LIFO table. This table is used for calculating FIFO or LIFO prices. And as we said, it is usually used automatically or manually at the end or when we are closing a period. Now, all over the system we have some sum files. What are these? These are files that keep quantities and average unit costs per period or per year. They are these tables here in green. This one here has a link to a period, to an inventory period. Now is the time to clear things up about periods. First of all, we have our fiscal year. A fiscal year can be different from a calendar year. What does this actually mean for implementers? That means that you don't need to start a company for 1st January and end it to 31 of the December. You can start any time in the year and end it at after a year. So we support fiscal years that are not the same with the calendar year. Now, let's go to the accounting periods. The accounting periods are actually the periods that fire up our closing periods. For small companies, sometimes the accounting periods are the same as the fiscal years. Why? Because they just close everything, adjust everything, and report expenses, etc., at the end of the year. So actually, their report period would be the same as the fiscal year. If, of course, they do everything in a month period or 3-month period, then their accounting periods can be for a month or 3 months period. They can choose whatever they like. But please note here that accounting periods are totally different than inventory periods. We have other structure for the inventory periods that are used in the inventory period sum table. Why is this? And why do we handle this very differently? Let's take a look at the costing again. We said before that we do everything on costing with the average price in real time. But how do we calculate the average real time? Do we calculate in a daily base, in a monthly base, in a yearly base? So this is why we have different inventory periods. If we want everything to be, every mean average to be calculated per day, then we can have 365, 66 or whatever we want periods for the inventory period. If we do it in a monthly base, then we have 12 inventory periods. The important thing here to note is that inventory periods and accounting periods can be different or they can be the same. Generally, some tables, either here in the inventory or in the G-party transactions or in the accounting, speed things also when we are doing especially reporting. Now, something else that has changed in the data analysis since version 0.4 is the type we have chosen for the primary key. Let's take a look at the primary key. Now it's a Unicode string like it was before. The size has changed. It is now 35. It was 32 before. Why has this changed? Because we have added to the primary key a 3-bit, 3 strings that actually tell us from which installation it did come. This means that we have if we have different networks, different installations on the same system, then we can have the first installation say 001, the 7002, and so on. So we can distinguish from where our postings are being done, from which installation. The other important thing is that in the language parameters, we have chosen now to make things more global and more international. We do not choose the language in the data analysis, you choose it in the code at the time when the system creates the file. You can see this is in the code, so you can define English, Greek, or whatever you want. It is not very important for the data analysis, but it makes things, especially when searching, a lot easier for your users. The main difficulty here is that you cannot change this automatically. Say that you would like to change it to a here which says language, to fast sort multilingual. We are not aware of any way to do this multiple changes in the data analysis of the current WinDev 21 version. It took us a lot of time just to change the language parameters, and it would be a nice feature if we had this kind of bulk changing for the system. Now, before closing this rather long presentation, let's take a look at the various alpha360 ERP editions. Of course, there is the open source WinDev version, there is the WinDev Professional version, the WebDev Professional version, and we have just announced a .NET C# version. This will be based on SQL Server database and the .NET Core 1.0 Microsoft technology, which you must note that it supports Windows, Linux, Macintosh, and Docker development, and it is open source. You can check the exact features of every version, but just note that the user interface and the business processes may be different, but the data analysis models will be the same across all our versions. Now, about the prices. Let's go to the order page. Of course, you can order directly from here. You use PayPal and everything is very safe. We have from the beginning added a special offer that ended, I think, first at the end of October, then at the end of November, etc. We are going to do a last, and this is the last one, a special offer that will end at 31/12/2016. And why we are doing this? Because every time our offer is closing, our special offer is closing, we are getting emails from developers all around the world asking us of a few days. So just because their budget, they have problems with the budget, etc. I think everybody will be right with the ending at December 31, 2016. So if you intend to use a commercial version, the best time would be now because prices will definitely go up in 2017. Now, before closing this presentation, I hope that you are still with me, because at first I intended to do a rather small presentation, but you know how things go. I would like to thank the hundreds of developers around the world who are using our products and supporting us. Thank you very much.